What is that one book that absolutely changed your life? Probably Redwall because it got me into reading as a child, and later writing. A Brief History of Time. The insanity and complexity of the universe was explained in understandable terms. Bonkers. There is a monster at the end of this book. It really led me on a journey to overcome my fears and deeply examine what it means to be a monster. Also, pulling really hard against Grover to turn the pages helped me get buff. Really, I was helping Grover face fears he was not ready to face, but we faced them together. The Easy Way to Stop Smoking by Alan Carr. I had zero intention to stop smoking when I started reading that book. To say I was skeptical about it would be an understatement. I was a heavy chain smoker. Smoked more than anyone I knew, but I went cold turkey after I read it. 3 years strong. I have not had a single puff since finishing that book. If you smoke, you want to read this book now. I wish I read it earlier. Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. The things other people have put into my head, at any rate, do not fit together nicely, are often useless and ugly, are out of proportion with one another, are out of proportion with life as it really is outside my head. Dune. Fear is the mind killer. Also, A Wrinkle in Time. Where the Red Fern Grows. It still has the best imagery of any book I've ever read. A must-read for dog lovers. The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. When I was 18, I didn't go to high school for reasons, and this book made me go get my high school degree and go to college because I wanted to become a journalist because of that book. I graduated college last month. The End of Mr. Y. My ex-partner threw it at my face during an argument and knocked down and burst my forehead. So I left her and totally changed my ambitions in life. Kind of funny. Sometimes I see that book and scowl, and wonder what people think is going on. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson got me back into reading after 5 years without picking up a book, and then later inspired me to become a self-published author. Thinking Fast and Slow. I had no idea how my over-reliance on my intuition was impacting my ability to think through tough problems. It has forever changed the way I look at the world. The Hobbit. As a young child, I had always found reading to be pretty dull. This changed when I was 7 and got my hands on The Hobbit. I realized that it wasn't reading that was boring, I just wasn't reading the right books. The Hobbit started my lifelong love of reading, particularly fantasy and sci-fi, a passion that I am now following as a writer. Where the Red Fern Grows fucked me up as a kid. The Giver. I remember reading that book in 6th or 7th grade and just being blown away. I had never experienced a book like that before, and it really had a huge impact on me. It also say the Harry Potter series, because as a young kind reading those books I really felt like I was escaping into this magical world. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, an incredible sci-fi book that was written in the 80s and is a mix of apocalypse fiction, socio-political critique, resilience. Completely changed my worldview, put me on the path to sustainable off-grid living, which I'm really grateful for. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy got me into reading. The Kite Runner. Completely eye-opening, and an emotional roller coaster. Harry Potter. Read the first book when I was 10, and I remember praying so hard for God to let me go to Hogwarts. My kid logic: if God was real then so was magic, right? Discrete Mathematics 4th edition. Never wanted to end my life so quickly. The Phantom Tollbooth. I reread it after hearing that Norton Juster passed. It may have resonated more with me at 32 years old than reading it as a child. Brave New World. I think it paints such a more complex and all-encompassing picture of a dystopian society than 1984 did. The Long Walk by Stephen King greatly shows the variety of lives and some lessons about the life itself. Flowers for Algernon. I read it as a teenager, and it made me realize that my intelligence was a privilege, and that it didn't make me better than people who are less intelligent than me. Neuromancer. It somehow gave me hope. Might have been at a low point in my life, I really can't say, but I started collecting books again, reading more, and I put up with way less shit from people. There's got to be a reason somewhere, so I'm giving credit to William Gibson. The Bible. It made me an atheist. Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse made me rethink the nature of religion. The Stinky Cheese Man and Other Fairly Stupid Tales. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. The Road. I read it before and after becoming a father. Drastically different experiences. And The World According to Garp. I read it when I was a kid, and it was the first novel that made me laugh out loud and come close to crying in the same book. I remember when I read Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean M. Auel. I was about 10 years old and I had seen the movie a dozen times before I found out it was a book. I devoured it in 2 days. I was hooked on the whole series for decades, and it started my obsession with books. I will read anything, but historical fiction is my favorite, and it started with the Earth's Children series. I'm embarrassingly basic, but The Hunger Games. It got me into reading in grade school/high school, which really benefited my comprehension, vocabulary and writing. Depressive Illness, The Curse of the Strong by Tim Canifer. Whenever someone tells me they are struggling with their mental health, I immediately point them to this book. It is the first one I have read by a health professional where I got the impression they actually get what it means to be depressed, and unlike most books by professionals, it's pretty easy to read at about 100 pages. It doesn't offer any cure-all remedies, but it does help you understand why this is happening to you, so you can start to do something about it. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Heinlein. It taught me how liberating it is to care about something you think is important. The Body Keeps the Score, Mind, Brain and Body and the Transformation of Trauma. If only more mental health care specialists read this book. If only more _doctors read it. If only more people understood the ripples of intergenerational trauma and abuse. Ender's Game for sure. It was just mind-blowing to my little 10-year-old self. The Dark Tower series. Those books helped me escape during some trying times. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. Was living in a broken-down Suburban with 2 flat tires. Now I'm on my way to $200K a year and just bought a van in cash to turn into a camper. It was more than just that, obviously, but the motto "I can do anything through strengthening" definitely changed my life. Lord of the Rings. I first read it in 8th grade when most of my friends were filling out and getting noticed by boys. The only thing noticed about me was that I was tall, terribly skinny and would disappear sideways. LOTR made me realize that there are whole rich other worlds that exist outside of school, and maybe I was just built more like a badass elf than a lame human. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, Robert M. Pirsig. The famous quote "It's better to travel than to arrive" is from this book. Gotta go with the 5 love languages. As a 20-something divorced dad, it was eye-opening. Really makes you appreciate how others operate in a relationship. Sapiens. This book put a lot of things about humanity into perspective for me. The Stand, by Stephen King. It gave me a strange sense of what the US was like, but hey, I was like 12 at the time. I thought it was an epic tale, and I wanted to live in that world where I could do whatever the hell I wanted to. And now COVID has made it popular again. The Anne of Green Gables series. The love story between Anne and Gilbert is beautiful, but even more than that, I loved reading about her friendship with Diana and seeing her gain meaningful parents in Marilla and Matthew. I loved reading about her misadventures, but also of how no matter what happened, the people who loved her kept loving her. She finally found a family, just an unconventional one. Heart. My Side of the Mountain. I was young and have always camped and loved the outdoors, still do. But this book had such an exciting story. It's about a boy who runs away from home and plans to live in the wild on his own. He goes to a library and checks out a bunch of books on survival and lives in the forest. He even burns the base of a large tree and hollows it out and makes a living space inside. It's a super easy read, but I loved every page. When I was but a young Padawan, another student threw his math book at my face during a dispute. It broke my nose and changed my beautiful looks into something slightly less beautiful. The Last Lecture by Randy paused. She read it in my late teens and I really tried to take in as much as I could. He seemed like an incredible man, and am grateful that he shared so many life lessons with the world before he passed. I should read it again. The Outsiders. Beautiful story that opened me up to the wonders of the 50s and 60s in the Western U.S. Absolutely loved it. Please read it, whoever reads this. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Jules Verne. Read it in 4th grade and it spurred a love and fascination for science that ultimately led me to teach biology and physics. The Handmaid's Tale. It stopped me from sinking into fundamentalism and taught me the importance of separation of church and state. Calvin and Hobbes, no question. Got me into my love of comics. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It inspired me to put a small towel in my backpack at all times. Fahrenheit 451. Made me rethink society and how we see the world. The Giver. Read it when I was around 11, and it was like reading can be fun. Berserk. The struggle of having to wait for more chapters is agonizing. Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. This book is all-inspiring and makes you reconsider everything you have ever learned. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. This book taught me that most of the problems in my life can be solved by working on myself. It doesn't matter where I came from or started, but it does matter where I choose to put my energy and time. If you put in the time and work, you can achieve anything the mind is set on. It's almost like a superpower. It's not easy, but David Goggins taught me I have the ability to do things I never thought possible. Thank you, David Goggins. Seriously, I recommend this book for anyone who feels stuck in life. Who Moved My Cheese by Drive. Spencer Johnson. Read it because of the title, but has remained my go-to for books since 2005. It talks about dealing with change and how to cope with it. The Dispossessed, by Ursula Le Guin. If you've ever wondered how to reconcile a desire for freedom and a desire to support the common good, look no further.